handling. In this module, you will learn about importance of data file for permanent storage of data, how standard input-output function work, text and binary file, opening and closing a file, both text and binary, reading and writing data in file, writing programs that manipulate data file or files. So far, you have been working with programs which run, produce some output, and end. The data that program processed is lost as soon as they stop running. Next time you run the same program, you need to provide the data again and get the output. This happens because the data you enter is stored in the primary memory that is temporary in nature. What if you need the data that you entered for later use? You can store this data using secondary storage media, that is, hard disk. Here, data stored permanently and hence its processing would be faster. You have already used the files to store your data permanently when you worked with word processing applications, spreadsheets, presentation applications, etc. All of these create data files and store your data so that you can use them later. Apart from these, till now you were permanently storing your Python scripts as .py extension also. So what is a file? A file, that is, data file, is a named place on the disk where a sequence of related data is stored. In Python, files are simply stream of data, so the structure of data is not stored in the file along with data. You can perform 5 basic operations on a data file. They are naming a file, opening a file, reading data from the file, writing data in the file, and closing a file. Using these basic operations, you can process file in different ways, such as creating a file, traversing a file for displaying the data on screen, appending data in file, inserting data in file, deleting data from file, creating a copy of file, updating data in the file, etc. Let us look at each of these in greater detail. In Python, you can create and manage 2 types of files, namely text and binary. A text file is usually treated as sequence of lines. Line is a sequence of characters, ASCII, stored on permanent storage media. Default character coding in Python is ASCII. However, it supports Unicode as well if you use constant U with string. In text file, you terminate each line by a special character known as end of line, EOL. You use /n as new line character. So, text file is collection of bytes and are stored in human readable form. Text files can be created using any text editor. Now, let us learn about binary files. A binary file contains arbitrary binary data, that is, numbers stored in the file. It can be used for numerical operations. So, when you work on binary file, you have to interpret the raw bit patterns read from the file into correct type of data in your program. You can interpret a stream of bytes originally written as string as numeric value. However, it will be incorrect interpretation of data and you may not get desired output after the file is processed. Hence, it is extremely important that you interpret the correct data type while reading the file. Python provides you special modules for encoding and decoding of data for binary file. For handling data files in Python, you must have a file object. You can create a file object by using open function or file function. You can start working on file by opening it. To do so, use built-in function open. The open function creates a file object which can be used to access various methods and functions available for file manipulation. Syntax of open function is shown on the screen, where open function takes 3 arguments. First one, file name, is the name of the file on secondary storage media. This can be string constant or a variable. The name can include the description of path in case the file does not reside in the same folder or directory in which you are working. The second parameter, access_mode, describes how file will be used throughout the program. This is an optional parameter. The default access_mode is reading. The third parameter, buffering, is used for specifying how much is read from the file in one read. The function will return an object of file type using which you can manipulate the file in your program. While working with files, a buffer, temporary area for data, is automatically associated with file when you open the file. While writing the content in the file, it will first go to the buffer. Once the buffer is full, data will be written to the file. Also, when file is closed, any unsaved data will be transferred to the file. Flush function is used to force transfer of data from buffer to file. Next, let us explore various file access modes. First file access mode is the R mode. R opens the text file for reading only, and RB mode does the same for binary format file. This is also the default mode. In this mode, the file pointer is placed at the beginning for reading purpose. Next file access mode is the W mode. W opens a text file for writing only and WB for binary format file. Here too, the file pointer is again placed at the beginning. You can create non-existing file using this mode. However, remember, if you open an already existing file in this mode, then the file will be overwritten. This is because the file pointer will be at the beginning for writing in it. Next file access mode is the A mode. A mode allows you to append data in the text file and AB in binary file. Appending means writing data at the end of the file. In this mode, file pointer is placed at the end in an existing file. You can also use this mode for creating a file by opening a non-existing file using this mode. Let us move ahead to the next file access mode, R+ mode. R+ opens a text file and RB+ opens a binary file for both reading and writing purpose. Here the file pointer is placed at the beginning of the file. Next file access mode is the W+ mode. W+ opens a file in text format and WB+ in binary format for both reading and writing. In this mode, file pointer is placed at the beginning for writing into it. This means that if you open an existing file in this mode, then it will be overwritten. You can also create a new file using this mode. Next file access mode is the A+ mode. A+ file access mode opens a text file and AB+ opens a binary file for both appending and reading. Here the file pointer is placed at the end of the file in an already existing file. You can also create a non-existing file using this mode. Let us now understand the use of the open function with the help of an example. Consider file equals to opensample.txt, r plus. This will open a file called sample.txt for reading and writing purpose. Here, if you notice, the name of the file specified is constant. You can even use a variable instead of a constant as name of the file. If sample file already exists, then it should be in the same folder where you are working now. Otherwise, you need to specify the complete path. Please note, it is not mandatory to have file name with extension. In this example, .txt extension is used for easy identification of the file. Another function that you can use to create a file is file function. Its syntax and its usage is same as open function. You can use with statement along with open and file function. With statement ensures that all the resources allocated to file objects gets deallocated automatically once you stop using the file. The syntax of with statement is with open as file object : Here is an example. Let's learn about other methods and functions that you can use with file object. First one among the list is close function. You can use file object .close to close the file object once you finish working on the file. The close method frees up all the system resources used by the file. That means once the file is closed, you wouldn't be able to use the file object anymore. Any data which is not written in file will be flushed off before closing the file. So it is recommended to close the file once you finish using it. In case you reassign the file object to some other file, then Python will automatically close the file. Let us look at the methods from the file. Read line. This method will return a line read as a string from the file. First call to function will return first line, second call, next line, and so on. Please note, file object keeps the track of from where reading or writing of data should happen. Here, a line is terminated by /n, that is, new line character. The new line character is also read from the file and postfixed in the string. Read line will return an empty string when end of file is reached. The syntax of read line is file object dot read line. For example, you can write x equals to file dot read line or print file dot read line. If you want to read an entire file using read line, then you will have to loop over the file object. Read line method is memory efficient, simple and fast way to read a file. Let's look at a simple example. For line in file : print line. You can achieve the same by using another way of looping, that is, read lines. You can use read lines method to read the entire content of the file. You need to be careful while using it with respect to the size of memory required before using the function. The method readLines returns a list of strings, each separated by /n. The third method read is used to read specific size string from file. This function also returns a string read from the file. At the end of the file, again an empty string is returned. Syntax of read function is as shown on the screen. Here, size indicates the number of bytes to be read from the file. Hence, you can use this function to read specific quantity of data from the file. If you do not specify the value of size, or if you provide a negative value as size, then entire file will be read. However, it is recommended to take care of memory size available before reading the entire content from the file. Let's see how we can use various functions to read data from file. Consider you have a file sample.txt containing following data. If you use readLines function on this file as shown here, it will print element of lines as follows. If you use read function on this file as shown here, read function will produce a list of strings as shown here. You can use write function and writelines methods to send data in file, that is, to create or write in the file.write method. That is, to create or write in the file. Write method takes a string as parameter and writes it in the file. To store data with end-of-line character, you need to add /n character at the end of the string. To store numeric value, you need to convert it to string, since argument to the function has to be string. Syntax of write function is file object.write string. Here is a sample program. As mentioned earlier, to store numeric data value, you need to convert it to string. Have a look at an example to understand better. You can use write method to write a string at a time only. You cannot use this method to write a list, tuple, etc. into a file. You can write sequence data type using writelines method in the file. The syntax of writelines function is file object.writelines sequence. Here is an example that uses writelines function. Have a look at an example of creation and reading of file in interactive mode. Output will look like this. In this example, first you open a file for creation purpose. Hence, the access mode is W. In the second statement, you create a list of 2 strings and write in file in third statement. You use writelines function for writing as you have a list of 2 strings. After writing the data in file, you close the file. In next set of statements, first you open the file for reading purpose. In next statement, you read the line from file and display it on screen also. In the last statement, you close the file. Although you use readLine method to read from the file that should have returned a string at a time, you get both the strings. This is because writelines function does not add any EOL character to the end of string. You have to do it. So to resolve this problem, you can use following statement. Now using readLine function will result into a string at a time. Till now, we have discussed about all reading and writing functions that work sequentially in the file. If you want to access the contents of file randomly, then you can use seek and tell methods. Let us learn more about them. Tell method returns an integer giving the current position of object in the file. The integer returned specifies the number of bytes from the beginning of the file till the current position of file object. The syntax of tell function is file object.tell. You can use seek method to position the file object at particular place in the file. The syntax of seek function is as shown on the screen. Here, offset is used to calculate the position of file object in the file in bytes. Offset is added to from_what, that is, reference point to get the position. You can use following from what values. Value reference point, 0 beginning of the file, 1 current position of file, and 2 end of file. Default value of from_what is 0. That is beginning of the file. Let's read the second word from the sample file created earlier. First word is welcome, which is 7 alphabets, so you need to move to 7th byte. Offset of first byte starts from 0. Here is the program code. This program will display 2 on screen. Here is a function to create and display a text file using one stream object. In this function, once you open the file, you use while loop. The while loop allows you to store as many strings as you wish in the file. Once you are done with all the strings, file object is taken back to first alphabet in the file using seek method, from where you read the complete data in list object. You know that the methods provided in Python for writing or reading a file works with string parameters. So, to work on binary file, you need to convert the data at the time of reading, as well as while writing. You can use Pickle Module to store any kind of object in file, as it allows you to store Python objects with their structure. Hence, you can use Pickle Module to store data in binary format. To do so, first you need to import the module. It provides 2 main methods for the purpose: dump and load. To create a binary file, you use pickle.dump method. This method is used to write the object in file, which is opened in binary access mode. Syntax of dump method is dump object, file object. Here is an example. Have a look at an example of writing a dictionary in binary file. Once you store the data using dump method, you can use it for reading. To read data from file, you can use pickle.load function. This function will read the object from pickle file. Syntax of load function is object equals to load file object. Note that you need to call load for each time dump is called. Here is an example. This program will produce following output. To distinguish a data file from pickle file, you use a different extension of file, that is .pk or .pickle. Have a look at an example to store multiple integer values in a binary file, then read and display it on screen. In this example, line 1 imports the Pickle module required to work on binary file. Line 2 opens a binary file, test.dat, for writing in it. In line 3 and 4, you use a loop to read integer value and then put it in file. In line number 5, you close the file data.dat. This will deallocate all the resources being used with file. In line number 6, you again associate test.dat to file stream for reading from it. Line numbers 7 and 11 are used to detect end of file condition. This helps you to read the content of entire file. Try and accept allow you to handle errors in the program. Line number 8 allows you to make an infinite loop, as the same will be handled using end of file condition. In line number 9, you get data from the binary file and store same in X, which you print on screen in next line. Remember, one load will get data for one dump. Last statement will again close the file. Files are always stored in current folder or directory by default. The OS or operating system module of Python provides various methods to work with file and folder or directories. In order to use these functions, you need to import OS module in your program. Some of the useful methods that you can use with files in OS module are as follows. 1. Get CWD to know the name of current working directory. 2. Path.abs path file name will provide you the complete path name of the data file. 3. Path.isFile name will check whether the file exists or not. 4. Remove file name will delete the file. Here, file name has to be the complete path of life. 5. Rename file name 1, file name 2 will change the name of file name 1 with file name 2. Once the file is opened, then using file object, you can derive various information about file. You can do this using file attributes defined in OS module. Some of the attributes defined are file.closed returns true if file is closed. File.mode returns the mode with which file was opened. File.name returns name of the file associated with file object while opening the file. You have used file object or objects to work with data file, and you have performed input-output from standard input or output devices using standard input or output stream object. Since you used high-level functions to perform input or output through keyboard and monitor such as raw_input, input and print statement, you do not require to explicitly use IO stream object. But let's learn a bit about these streams also. There are 3 standard streams available in Python. They are standard input stream, standard output stream, and standard error stream. These standard streams are nothing but file objects, which get automatically connected to your program's standard device or devices when you start Python. If you wish to work with standard input or output stream, you need to import sys module. Methods which are available in sys module for input-output operations are read for reading a byte at a time from keyboard and write for writing data on terminal, that is, monitor. Have a look at an example. Having understood all basic operations of file handling, let us move ahead to learn the various processes that can be performed on file or files using these operations. First is creating a file. There are 2 options to create a file. Option 1. You can create an empty file using open statement. The content in the file can be stored later on using append mode. Option 2. You can create a file and simultaneously store or write the content also. Algorithm. Step 1. Open a file for writing into it. Step 2. Get data to be stored in the file. Can be a string at a time or complete data. Step 3. Write it into the file. If we are working on a string at a time, then multiple writes will be required. Step 4. Close the file. Here is a program code. At the runtime, following data was provided. Writing first line to the file. Here is the second line. And this is last line. Next is Traversal for display. Here is the algorithm for Traversal for display. Have a look at the program code. This program will produce following result. Remember that you did not add new character with string while writing them in file, hence the output. Here is another example. This code will also display the same content. Have a look at third example. The code will give the following output. Till now you created file object to either read from the file or to write in the file. Let us create an object that is capable of both reading and writing. The following code performs same operation, a binary file. Next, let us learn to create a copy of file. Here is the algorithm. Have a look at the program code to create a copy of existing file. In the same way, you can copy a binary file. You need not use dump and load methods for this. You just pass byte strings from one file to another. You can handle this in two ways. Option 1. For small file which can fit into memory, that is, a few MBs. Here is the algorithm. Here is a program code for deleting second word from story.txt. To delete any content, use position of the data. If position is unknown, then search the desired data and delete the same from the list. Option 2. For large files which will not fit into memory of computer. For this, we will need two files. Algorithm look like this. Here is the program code for deletion of the line or lines having word passed as argument is : Now let us insert data in a file. You can do this in two ways. Insertion at the end of file or insertion in the middle of the file. Let us look at both the options in detail. Option 1. Insertion at the end. This is also known as appending a file. Here is an algorithm to insert the data at the end. Program code for appending data in binary file look like this. Option 2. Inserting in the middle of file. There is no way to insert data in the middle of file. This is a limitation because of OS. To handle such insertions, you need to rewrite the file. Have a look at the algorithm. The program code for inserting data in the file with the help of another file is similar to the code used for deletion of content using another file. Here, instead of not writing the content, add it in the file. An alternative to this is first read the complete data from file into a list. Modify the list and rewrite the modified list in the file. Now, let us see how to update a file. You can update the file in many ways. Few of them are: Option 1. Truncate write. Algorithm for truncate write is as follows. Program code for this will be similar to the following. Option 2. Write replace. Here is the algorithm. This way of processing a file using Python has been handled earlier. Option 3. In-place updation. Here is the algorithm. Updating a text file in this manner is not safe, as any change you make to the file will overwrite the content you have not read yet. You should only use this option when the text to be replaced is of same size. In-place updation of a binary file is not possible since this requires placing a file object to the beginning of the record, and calculating size of data in dump file is not possible. Therefore, it is not recommended to use third option for updating a data file in Python. In this module, you have learned a file is a named place on the disk where a sequence of related data is stored. It is used to store huge collection of data permanently. You can use the stored data later by performing various file operations like opening, reading, writing, etc. You can create and manage two types of file, namely text and binary. A text file is usually treated as sequence of lines. A binary file contains arbitrary binary data, that is, numbers stored in the file. Access modes specify the type of operations to be performed with the opened files. Methods available for reading data from the file are read, readline, and readlines. Methods supported for writing data in the file are write and writelines. The two functions that allow you to access a file in a non-sequential or random mode are seek and tell. Tell method returns an integer giving the current position of object in the file. Seek method positions the file object at particular place in the file. Serialization is the process of converting a data structure or object that can be stored in non-string format and can be resurrected later. Serialization can also be called as deflating the data and resurrecting as inflating it. Pickle Module is used in serialization of data. It allows you to store data in binary form in the file. You can use dump and load functions to write data and read data from file. OS module provides various functions and attributes to work on files. There are three standard streams available in Python. They are standard input stream, standard output stream, and standard error stream.